Welcome, everybody. My name is Gerhard Schwartner. I'm the founder and publisher of Selling Power Magazine. And my special guest today is Thomas Ross. He is Vice President of SOAR Inc. Welcome, Thomas. And our topic today is we talk about AI as your strategic partner. And I want to say that I have, over the last few weeks, had so many conversations with experts on AI. And there are so many shiny objects out there, and it can be so confusing. And I've seen a lot of AI demonstrations, and although demonstrations look really good, those tools, some of them are really difficult to implement, and those companies tend to overpromise and underdeliver. And I have set a goal for myself to help be the clarifier in the market and pull in experts like Thomas to help us rethink how to think about using AI as the strategic partner to improve business processes, to improve sales, to accelerate revenue, to make sales work more enjoyable. So with that, without further ado, I want to turn it over to Thomas. And I also wanted to share a few housekeeping rules. We encourage interaction. We purposely limited this masterclass to a smaller size, and we want everybody to be able to ask questions, but also we welcome contribution of ideas and best practices. So Thomas, take it away.
Thank you so much, Gerhard, and welcome everybody, and thank you for taking the time today. So just as a quick overview, I've been involved in sales training, implementation, facilitation, as well as it relates to digital transformations for a couple of decades now. So I've been doing this for a while, and that transformed itself into digital selling, social selling, customer experience, and all the digital realms that have come into play in those areas. And over the last year, I've been lucky enough to become part of the great team at SOAR. And SOAR is a portfolio of AI products, of which a couple, Sales AI and Workplace AI, really focus on the business side of AI as it relates to putting AI to work, creating business intelligence around communications. We'll talk about that a lot more later. But because of my background in sales and working with digital selling and those things, it was a natural fit. And I've been lucky enough to work with many enterprise companies globally in transforming their sales over the years. So I've seen firsthand both how sales and customer experience have radically changed over the years. And now, in addition, another evolution has taken place and is continuing to take place with the introduction of AI. And we're now at the point, and that's what we're going to talk about today at length. And what we'd really like to do is to make sure that everybody, as we do this, has the opportunity to chime in and maybe ask a few questions and get involved in the conversation. The interesting thing about AI is that when I woke up this morning, it was different than when I went to bed last night. So the speed of change is outrageous. And as we watch the events continue to unfold in Vegas with respect to technology and how that's being introduced out there, it's incredible. And so we're gonna talk a lot about that and really how to put that into action with respect to what we're doing now. So that's what I'd like to get into. I'd like to talk a little bit about whether or not you're actually ready for AI. Now, that seems like a silly question because everybody's already using AI. In fact, I doubt there's many organizations that one way or the other are not. In fact, they may even not realize how much the teams and their people, individuals or otherwise, are already using AI. on their own or otherwise. And that's a great thing, but it's also a dangerous thing, right? From a compliance and from a security perspective, and certainly from an informational perspective as it relates to their customers. So the question really is, are they prepared? And I'm here to tell you that they're not, right? So less than, or the estimates are that 50 to 70% of companies today are unprepared, right? Even though over 70% have already begun to implement AI in different areas of their business. So the question then becomes, where are we now with that process, right? And where I would argue that we're at with the process now is not should we bring in AI, because it's already here. And whether we're doing it in a coordinated way or not as yet doesn't change that fact. The fact is what we need to do now is to zoom in and to really drill down to see how we can turn AI into the productivity and the revenue growth that we were after in the first place. And that's really what we want to focus in on today, is how to really make AI become part of your engine, your revenue engine. And so this next slide is really yours, Gerhard, if you remember.
Yeah.
And Gerhard put this together, and he created what we call acts. So you wanna take it away, Gerhard?
Yeah, I think that first I want to say hi to Fabio from Honduras. Thank you for joining us. It's always great to see you, and I know you manage a small team, and but what's interesting about you, you are really curious, and you always try to understand that fast-moving train that we are on called change. So I came up with that ACTS acronym when it comes to thinking about AI. The one thing that comes to mind is that without awareness, there is no change. And what we need to do in this age is to grow bigger antennas and engage our curiosity and explore what are the potential uses for AI. And like last year, we've done now 3 AI conferences and summits. And in the beginning, I thought it was a curiosity factor. You can create a video by giving a prompt and say, my salespeople need help with handling price objections. Can you create a 2-minute training video? And AI can do that. Then I discovered Hey Gen, and I could select from 16 different avatars and create a script, a sales pitch, and have that sales pitch created within like 2 minutes and then post it on LinkedIn and get responses. I did one last night. I already got 540 views on that. So there's so much uh, creativity out there, and I've spoken to about 20 different companies that focus on nothing but using AI for sales coaching and onboarding, where salespeople can do role plays with AI and get feedback, get evaluation. So to me, awareness is a critical ingredient because in the past, there's been a tremendous shift. We were always curious about the future, and we still are. But the bigger challenge today is becoming aware of the present. What are the present day capabilities and possibilities? So think about that. The second thing is we need clarity. There is a huge amount of money flowing into AI innovations. Um, and NVIDIA is an AI company, is the second largest company in the world, came out of nowhere. That did not exist 10 years ago. And Apple was the biggest company, and they actually eclipsed Apple a couple of times now in terms of market cap. In the last quarter alone, Q4, investors poured in $42 billion into AI companies. So we need to be clear that what's leading the charge is not necessarily the idea that helps create new AI solutions, but you want to follow the money trail. You want to find out where's the money going, and that gives you more clarity about where we are headed. And where we are headed is we have AI agents, then we have AI super agents, and 2 years from now, we're going to have AI robots. And those AI robots themselves will have agents that educate them. So you actually will be in a position 2 years from now to have the world's knowledge about anything at your fingertips in your living room. And the third point is tools. There are now over 400 AI tools that I know of that are applicable to sales, to improve sales productivity, to generate leads, to deliver pitches, to analyze sales data. So it becomes a real tough challenge to narrow down which tool is appropriate for you and how those tools are going to get organized and synchronized so they become part of your strategy. And that's the last one. And this is something that I've learned from Thomas. AI is the strategy. In the past, we thought about IT being sort of the key to success of a business. Today, we realize that an AI-based strategy for creating a modern enterprise where humans are not going to do mundane tasks anymore and engage in swivel chair operation, go from one thing to the next software and boot it up again. But there is going to be one comprehensive strategy that will direct your business in the future that is all AI driven. And I just had a conversation with Bill McDermott yesterday. He is the CEO of ServiceNow. And when he started with the company 4.5 years ago, the company was worth $39 billion. Today, the company is worth $215 billion. $215 billion. He created value for the company, for the shareholders, by creating an AI strategy for the company, for the business, for the customers. And that's one of the best run companies in the world now because they're getting 2 million resumes a year because people want to work for companies led like by Bill McDermott, who is a strategist. So that's my quick overview about AI and the things that I'd like you to think about.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Gerhard. So if we start to talk about how is AI being adopted now, and these are the stats as of the end of 2024, we can see the industries that have really jumped at it, healthcare being the biggest, which I found surprising, finance second, and then sales in general, manufacturing, retail, transportation, education, and agriculture. You can see that the adoption rate just continues to move quickly. That's actually up quite a bit from where it was just 6 months ago, and that's going to continue. Now, what's important about that stat and this bar graph is that what it's showing is AI adoption that's been done on purpose by organizations. That is to say, as an organization, enterprise or otherwise, they've, as an organization, bought and implemented AI into their business. This does not speak to, and this is what's really interesting, as we've come to learn working with clients, all of the individuals and teams within the company that were doing it already. So that's not included. And I think if you did include that, that bar would be closer to 90 across the board by way of percentage. Because the fact is that in most companies today, individuals, departments, people within have already started using various types of AI, which is good, but also, as I mentioned earlier, dangerous. So it's not yet necessarily at the point where it's being used across the board strategically, or as I like to say, on purpose, to meet the goals and objectives. And that's really what we want to talk about today, is how to make sure that that's happening. There is no one size fits all, and it really is important that we see all of the opportunities, right, and see how it fits into our business. Today, with the news coming out every morning, we hear about this new version and that new version, or this new excuse me, type of opportunity that AI is now developing, and we want to jump on that.
Thomas,
Yes.
can we open the floor for to and give the audience the opportunity to share with us to what degree have you adopted AI at the present moment?
That's a great idea. Let's do that.
Yeah. David, you want to unmute yourself? We can't hear you yet. How about Gary? You want to unmute yourself?
Yes, sir. It's always a privilege to join this group. I would say for our organization, we're somewhat limited. I am trying to keep a very close eye on things and always looking for new opportunities and tools. Right now, myself and the staff, or the staff and I, will utilize, Microsoft Copilot, for the virtual assistant capabilities, Chat GPT, um, always looking for, information from those types of resources. We have not, got to the point of any automation, with email messages. So just kind of interested in what the group says today and, see what some of the innovation is that, could be of value to us.
Would
Hey
you say,
guys.
just out of curiosity, and thank you, we'll come right back, but I did have a quick question to you.
Yes.
Are you aware of, or do you think that your team, in addition to what you're doing for the organization, are also playing and using AI on their own for different purposes?
Absolutely. It's a subject on our, weekly calls that, we, do discuss with our CRM. There's some opportunities there as well. So we're just really trying to be on the leading edge of understanding, all the capabilities that exist. But as you said, you woke up this morning and it changed. So that's why I'm here, is to hear from the experts and align, perhaps.
Nice. I'm sorry, Mark, did you want to say something?
Hey
I,
Thomas, how are you? A couple of things. Number one, the hardest thing in the world is a blank piece of paper. And so ChatGPT and the others, I'm looking for a sales strategy to go after this market. And within seconds, it'll generate one. And then once it's generated, it's so much more powerful and easier to go in and tweak it for my industry and my thoughts, and it generates new thoughts. So A is a great tool to get you off the starting line is huge. And the second thing is, I was doing a podcast with Jeb Blount, and one of the things he said was a lot of VPs aren't answering their emails anymore because so many AI email messages are hitting their inbox that's killed the channel. So I wanted to hear your thoughts about that, how do we use it in a way that we move our industry forward and not just shut down different channels so we actually make it tougher for ourselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I've been involved with what a term I would use called digital selling for quite a number of years now, and email streams have been under pressure for a while, and that's gotten limited and more and so as the years have gone by. But certainly with the introduction of AI over this last year, that's really taken a lot of whatever air was left in that particular bag. And so it's lost its impact to that. That's not to say there isn't value. It's to say that you've got to do a lot more of that and in a much higher quality way than you would have in the past. However, where AI can now be incredibly powerful, and to your point, that blank piece of paper, if I want to create an opportunity for content on any and all the different social or digital channels, whether it be a microsite, whether it be LinkedIn or wherever it might be, and I want to hit my target with respect to my ICP or my ideal customer profile, then AI is an incredibly powerful tool to help me do that. And AI and what we're going to talk about as we go into this will use my business intelligence. And one of the tools I'm going to show you later gives you that business intelligence to actually help create that persona so that you can now better target that market within the digital realm rather than by email, if that makes sense.
Uma, another way to think about it is that you think of email as a channel. What Thomas is talking about is the context. The context is more important than the channel because you will make time for anybody in this world if they have something intelligent to say about the problem that you're experiencing. And it doesn't matter what channel you use, whether you use LinkedIn or Twitter or a chat board on a website. I have a lot of conversations and make a lot of connections with people all over. And I found personally, if I come up with a thoughtful question, people answer. If I have an insight that I want to share with somebody who is experiencing a problem, and I drop that insight, they reach out to me. And I think with AI, you can actually reverse the process. Instead of pitching and spraying information into the ether, you can create something where you allow the customer to do the walking and shopping you, and they're coming to you. So you want to reverse that process. Does that make sense?
Your mic might be off, Umar.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of a conversation I had with this company called Agora Publishing in Baltimore. They do newsletters around finances, and I was asking the internet marketing team, how much time do you spend on the subject line? And they said 50%, because if someone doesn't open it, it doesn't make a difference how well it's written. And it kind of takes you back to the basics. If my conversation isn't an interesting one to my recipient, then what's the point? Then they're not going to see it. So thank you for reminding me, Gerhard.
You're welcome. Amy, I'd love to hear from you. What is your AI adoption curve right now? And where do you think you'll be by the end of this year?
Yeah, so I work at AWS, and so we have lots of tools that support our AI, and we are expected to use those with Cedric and Anthropic and many tools that we have. And we do everything from hiring, analytics, whatever. But I think the real key here, and you were starting to hit on it, was not so much the tools themselves, is being able to articulate what it is you want and being able to prompt it correctly. And when am teaching sellers this, I think they have those aha moments because it's filtering, not just filling it in and asking it the simple questions. It's taking that then and saying, okay, you read through this. Now what do you want from this? And keep diving deep into getting in some analytical pieces. And let me give you an example. We created an account management assistant. So now we take our account management plans, you can put them into our AI tool, and now you get out of this, the notes, you can actually have this AI tool ask you the questions that you believe the customer is going to ask you. So you're prepped, you're ready to go when you go into a meeting. But again, it's putting in, it's just like Salesforce.com, CRMs, what you put in or what you ask it, you get the best of your return on investment. So that's kind of what I wanted to add.
That is really cool. You are already on the cutting edge, but what do you see happening 6 or 12 months from now?
Well, I think for us, our salespeople, I work I'm a global enablement person for the financial services organization. So I work with a lot of mature sellers, right? So it's getting them in the comfort zone of this is a whole new way, we're, even adopting a whole new kind of methodology on our processes with this. But as they're seeing quick wins and quick returns on limiting their time and investment of, I've spent 5 hours on this account plan, or I've spent 5 hours on building this PowerPoint, and we're showing them easier ways on utilizing these tools, and freeing up their time to do other things. I think adoption is getting more and more. I would have told you last year we'd be happy to be at 50%. We're well over the 50% mark now. By the end of this year, we hope to be everybody's fully on board and adopted at 95% as our goal.
That's a great goal to have, Amy, and I'm certain you're gonna get there because what's not to like about being more productive? And AI to me is like sneakers for the brain. To use a metaphor, it makes you run faster so you can reach your goal sooner
Right.
sooner than the competition.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, for our fulfillment centers, everyone was afraid that people were going to lose jobs. But actually what has happened is, we've educated people that maybe didn't even have GED educations or college educations. We've educated them to be really good with prompts or robotics, things that they would have, tools and skills that they would have never had prior. So now that's really become very efficient for them. And of course, that just retention and development as they learn. So it's good all around for the AI.
So one more question, since you have experienced sellers and they do have skills gaps, do you plan to use AI for role play or training?
Yeah, we do. I've got a prompt going right now, a simulator that we're using, and we're working on building some additional prompts out of that to effectively use with our leadership, so that people can be more well equipped and prepared for conversations to broaden the minds of our work units. And when I say work units, are the customers that we have, just to broaden their minds on the scope of how they can run their business more effectively.
So, Amy, what you're saying is you're helping your senior sellers reach a higher level of conversation mastery.
Right, and then helping them by these simulators, we're helping them to educate our customers by showing them, here's how easy it is. So
that's awesome. Thomas, back to you.
Yeah, no, I love it. And that was so informative. And that's so impressive. You're in the top 10% easily with respect to your current implementation. And most folks, albeit you're still in the, I think, at the stage where you're going to start to want to integrate all those different data pools so that you can put it together in a more comprehensive way and have access to that data in a way that works across all of the areas of the business. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too. So that's fabulous. The biggest thing is what we call AI road mapping. And what that really does is it talks about all those various areas that Amy was just pointing out and how they're using it. And it starts to pinpoint where AI can really have its best impact. So as Gerhard was talking about with respect to coaching and training and role playing, all those things, AI can do all that. But how are you potentially integrating that with the CRM or the ERP or the systems that you're using so that you can streamline it and actually get the benefits in terms of the costs that would be in place or not, and so that you're ensuring that it's actually having an impact across the company, not just on the top line, but also on the bottom line. So I think these are things that we really want to look at, and we want to really collaboratively tailor a roadmap for your business. Every business is different. You know, if you're enterprise, that's great. Then you've got a lot of different areas to look at and deal with by department, by team, by people, potentially across different geographic regions. If you're a mid-sized business or a small business, AI can be just as impactful, but in a different way and for different reasons. So everybody's different. The key is to really focus in on what the goal of the business is. And if the goal is to grow sales, that's a great goal, but it's pretty generic and it doesn't really speak to where you want to grow sales, how you want to grow sales, what you've done in the past by way of how you've tried to do that by comparison, and so on. And so if we bring in AI that we think is going to grow sales without actually strategically looking at a methodology that aligns with what we're doing or what we want to do, it's quite likely that's not going to have the impact that we were hoping for. And I hear far too often from folks that we get the chance to talk to that they tried AI or they're trying AI and it's not getting the results, right? And that's why, because they didn't do it on purpose. They've kind of done it accidentally. Whereas Amy is already at the point where now they're fine-tuning what they're doing and even bringing in and developing some of their own. So that's where you want to be. And it takes quite a bit to get there. And so hats off to you and your team, Amy, and we'll show you some tools that might even help that go better. But, you know, whether you're creating cost reductions or whether you're designing ways to increase revenue quicker, and we've talked about a few here. So Umar, you had a question with respect to emails and how can we do that better? And Gerhard was able to sort of outline that, and there are ways to do that. AI can be an enormous part of that. If I have my ICP well documented, and I've got a business intelligence that I can put in by way of the data we've collected out of our systems, I can let AI go and create a lot of the reach outs and create the lead generation for me through a bunch of different channels that we can access on the basis of where we've defined our customers as being active. So that's the kind of thing that AI can do. Now my team, instead of sending emails or cold calling or doing something from 1995, they can actually be in 2025 and be following up on people that are already interested. Now, what we need to understand in combination with that statement is that people are already doing their own research because they're doing what we're doing. We're not doing anything that they're not. They're going into ChatGPT and they're typing in what they're looking for, and they're getting an incredible array of deep information about us and our competitors. It's already in front of them. Our job is to make sure that we're part of that by making sure that our content is where it can be now, and that's changed, and that's a different conversation. But SEO has changed radically in that reference, and so we need to be able to make sure we're there, and then we need to be able to make sure that when we are there and they do reach out, we're able to connect with that, and that's where AI comes in as well, because it'll tie those things together, create that lead gen, and fill your pipelines with those kinds of opportunities when you're using it properly and on purpose. And that's really what we want to talk about. So we want to define what kind of specific growth and revenue goals you have and where and how, so that you can actually implement the kind of AI where it's going to have the best impact. You know, very often people tell me, well, we need to get more new customers. And we do a deep dive into what they've been doing with respect to their existing customer base. And we find they've got an incredible customer base, but they're not retaining their customers to the extent they might want to. And they're certainly not growing their customers to the extent they want to. AI can play an enormous role in that by providing a much higher level, real-time, at scale customer service reach out to, again, feed your inside salespeople with leads and opportunities from your own customer base. The cost of developing a customer today is higher than it's ever been. AI can bring that down, and AI can help convert your leads at a much higher level than you've ever seen. And that's where this really lives. And that's how we can do this. Now, how are we going to measure this? Well, this is the other thing that I love about digital, as it compares to asking a sales rep who comes into the sales meeting, how were your sales calls last week? I'd rather be able to go onto a system and take the business intelligence from their activities and actually know the answer to that myself. And I already know that. So now what I can do is I can say, John or Mary, we see that there's some areas that we can be better at and improve on. Let's talk about how we can set up a system to help you get even better. That's where we want to be. We don't want to be chasing sales teams or customer service teams or any team around to have them give us data. The data is already there. And that's where AI can make an enormous difference. Now, who here is using AI from the perspective of business intelligence? I know Amy is. But is it Umar, are you doing that? Who wants to speak to that and tell me how they're using business intelligence? That is the data they're collecting with AI, taking it from there.
John? John, can you unmute yourself? I'd like to hear your perspective.
Maybe his mic just isn't.
Right.
Are you asking to me, Gerhard?
Yes.
John
Yeah.
Ferguson? Yeah. So I'm on the facilitation side. So I have a range of customers who are from 0 to 100, maybe Amy being 100, using it. And a lot of it, some of it is integrated into some tools that they already have or are getting, like Gong, right? Gong has done a lot of work, I think, on the AI side to give some of that in intelligence. And one question I have, one of the reasons I'm here is to continue the learning on this. And one question I would have from you, Thomas, is, yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, it's better to sit down and say, I've got the data on how you're performing. I'd like to have a conversation about that. But what are you seeing as the tool, or maybe even Amy, that's providing that data? What is, if somebody were to ask us or me, where do I go to get that data? What's the best way to get that data?
Well, there's a couple of
ways. What is the response back typically?
Yeah. We're going to talk a little bit about that more as we get going here, and I'm actually going to show you a little bit of that. But bottom line, with respect to that, hopefully they're using a CRM to some degree, right? The problem with the CRM is, while the company has spent the money and bought the licenses and put it in place, 9 times out of 10, the sales team isn't using it.
Yeah,
so
and then CRM is very almost number-driven data. Gong is in some ways it's way more than this, but I'll say voice data. I mean, you can search Gong today by keywords, customer connection, or their intent to buy, and there's a whole lot of data you can get from that, which is unbelievable. But I'm still missing the link between, because I deal with a lot of customers who aren't anywhere near this, right? They're like, yeah, let's work with my sales team. Let's get them better at doing, let's have better coaching conversations. By the way, yeah, some of them, to your point, are using ChatGPT, Perplexity.ai, all these others to get some rudimentary information. But I don't yet see well, you'll go through it. I'm really interested in some of the tools that say, hey, here's a way that you can help your team use AI to facilitate, 1, information to you to give better coaching, but 2, also for all the other things you outlined, better information to them for better results, right? So yeah, sorry.
No, that's perfect, and that's a perfect setup, by the way. So that's wonderful, and we will talk about that. And when we do, I'll come back to you, John, to sort of help us make sure that we're answering the questions the way you've just asked them.
Okay, good.
That okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, so planning and preparation. So this is the big thing. So what we think is our technology stack, as compared to what is our technology stack, tend to be 2 very different things. And what I mean by that is what we've talked about, and that is, we have bought certain products and systems and processes for our organization, but our team has gone ahead and bought a whole bunch of other things in addition to that. And to some extent, we may not even be aware of all of that. So our real technology stack is likely 2 to 3 times the size of what we think it is. So the first thing we need to do is to go in and take a look at that and see if that tech stack actually matches A, what we want, and B, if it's cohesive or has the opportunity to be cohesive, so that we can create a company-wide set of goals that can really improve things on an integrated and comprehensive level. And that's where things get interesting. And that's where Amy's at and with her process now. So, and then the other thing, and Amy touched upon this as well, how technology savvy are your teams today, and are they literate with respect to what we're doing? Well, the good news is, even if they're not, the idea isn't to send them back to technology schools of one kind or another. The idea is to jump them, push them in the water, and get them using it. The nice thing about AI today and technology today is not only is it incredibly powerful, but it's pretty easy to use, right? It's very intuitive, and it works with us, and we can learn it rather quickly. It's designed that way. So the UI, or the user interface, on most of these products is fabulous. That's not the challenge. The challenge is we have too many of them, and we're trying to do too many things that are not integrated, not comprehensive, and not effective with respect to the overall goals of the organization. So what we really need to do, and this is part of our road mapping process that we put in place, is what we call a digital analysis. And this helps us create a digital playbook and a digital roadmap on the basis of what you set as your goals. And if they're sales and customer oriented with respect to those results, then that's the area that we want to focus on, by way of John's questions, in terms of how to connect those dots and actually get access to that data in a way that we can now implement and use in real time against those goals we have. And that's where we want to be. That's the objective, and that's really what we're looking for. So what we want to do is pick our best case scenario. What's the well-defined use case that we want to consider for the organization? And we want to build it out so that we can automate as much of the key points within that as possible, and then look at a pilot project with a small team to implement it in the area or areas in order to find out the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And that really is the key. It's not about a brand. It's not about this product versus that product. It's about you and your organization and what you want from it first, right? And that's not to say that any products that you're using today are good or bad, because some of them are probably great. And then other ones may not be a good fit for what you want. And that's part of the discovery. And that's part of what we want to really establish as being your digital roadmap and your digital playbook, right? And then we want to start to look at what are some of these technologies, A, that you're using already, whether you know it or not, and then B, that are available. And you know, working with all these different technology as I have, and I know Gerhard has, for many years, you get to learn the good, the bad, and the ugly. But again, tomorrow morning we wake up, boom, there's another bright, shiny object that's doing something else. And we lose our focus, and we go and we jump there. And we want to try and stay away from that to some degree, and really keep our focus on our goals and our objectives, and utilize those things that make the sense for our main business case. And then we want to select the right technology that's going to fit for what we're doing, so that we can get the results and get our testing going. And that's really what it's all about in that case. And these pilot projects, they don't have to be expensive. They don't have to take forever. When they're designed right, they can be done in 6 to 8 weeks. That's the nice thing about AI. The impact and the results are real time, and they're fast, right? And depending upon where it's being used and why, we can prove out that model very rapidly. And then on that basis, good, bad, or otherwise, we can choose to implement that across the team and with our systems, or not, and move on. But AI doesn't need to take years. In fact, if it does, A, it's going to cost you far too much money, and B, by the time you get there, it's outdated anyway. So you really do want to do this down and dirty and quick, but at the same time as thoroughly as you can. And that's really what we want to dig into more. So you want to build a partnership and develop a change management plan. So what worked to get you here is not going to work to get you there. It's one of my favorite lines. And that couldn't be more true, right? Because as we've seen, you know, AI is going to continue to change, and there's going to be all sorts of other elements that we're going to want to bring into play. But none of it's going to make any sense or work if we don't get that base built of how we're using it in the first place. And we need to really roll that out in a way that's impactful and that we've checked out the technology and it works with our systems. If you're usually using a CRM, John, if you're using an ERP, if you're using various other tools, my first question about any AI that I want to use isn't what does it do or how, but can I integrate it? Is there an API? Can I get the data from there so I can pump it into my main system and do what you were talking about? Is that something I can connect, or is it going to be an external satellite that I've got to go and manually pull data from, right? Because that changes everything and it loses its impact. So these are the kinds of questions that we really want to ask. And then we want to start to preparing our teams. Sales teams is a good start, customer service, marketing, all those folks, with respect to how they can be using it. Marketing's already using it. Are you kidding? They're creating content right now. And sales to some degree is using it. Customer service to some degree is probably using it. Leadership is using it to some degree. But how do we put this all together so they're all using it in some of the same ways, but for and against the objectives so that we can have accountability across the system. Right now, and again, Amy is an example of where we all want to be, but in 95% of the cases, there is no accountability with AI. You know, the answer is it works great. We need to buy more. That's not an answer. The answer needs to be, what did it improve? How did it improve it? And show me that. How do we measure that? Like it would be for anything else. And you can do that. And that's really what we want to focus on. So pilot the AI solution using a control group, as we talked about, and create those KPIs. So if it's sales, what's the important factors that you want to address in sales? Is it customer growth? Is it new customer acquisition? Is it the growth in revenue? Is it profits? Is it our cost of sales? What are the important factors that you want to measure so that we can set it up accordingly and ensure that we're meeting those KPIs? Again, the great thing about any digital technology, and Umar, when you were talking about emails, is that we can get the stats and the digital information that we need while it's happening. I don't have to chase people, right? It's all in the system, assuming I've got them all using the system in the way that we need them to in order to do this. Back in the day of some of the older CRMs, some of them have changed and some of them not as much, they were very onerous. And salespeople were expected to sit down at a keyboard for an hour or two a day and input everything that they'd done or what they were going to do. And then hopefully those numbers matched up and their probabilities and such were somewhat accurate. Well, A, they probably didn't do it much, if at all. And B, if they did, it was inaccurate. So garbage in, garbage out. Today, we don't need to be doing that. Like you were saying, John, if they're doing meetings, and I'm going to show some of this as we go here a little later, we can get all that data right as they're doing it. We can see how they're doing. We've already got all that. Now we can truly sit down with them, help them improve, rather than just say, hey, how'd it go last week? How many meetings did you have? I already know that. So that's what we need to be doing, if that makes sense. So lead generation and productivity, we talked about that. So, you know, a couple of months ago, that diagram wasn't so bad. Today, I'm outdated, Gerhard. Right? Gerhard, Gerhard, I don't know if you want to almost show it, you don't have to, but Gerhard is already actively using a AI-based sales assistant which did a couple of videos for him. Do you want to talk a little bit about that quickly, Garrett?
Yeah, there's a website called heygen.ai, HEYGEN.ai. And what I was intrigued about a year ago is creating videos. So instead of you sitting in front of a camera and recording, you choose an avatar and type in the text, and the virtual actor is going to deliver it better than you can. Then I realized that they have an experimental part of the website, which is you can create your own avatar. So I created an avatar where I look at the camera, talk about 2 minutes about nothing, but just train the avatar to see my face, my facial expression, my voice, my movements, my smiles, and then it processes that, and you go back again, and then need to verify that the recording came from you. So you go do a second recording, and then it confirms you, and then you have an avatar. But then you can train the avatar to use different voices. So I translated what I said, what I wanted to say, into French, and put it in the tool. And the avatar created a French-speaking video with my voice in French in 2 minutes. And then I did one in German, and it did it. I mean, it is amazing. But then I took it the next step, which is creating an interactive avatar. So what I did is I put in a database and I said, here's our upcoming Sales 3.0 conference. It's an AI sales summit, February 26th and 27th. And I gave the avatar instructions to answer each question. And I have had like 20 questions that people could ask, that they could think of. Who are the speakers? How many people are participating? Who are the sponsors? What's the benefit of sponsoring? And then I worked maybe 2 hours on that, putting in the prompts, then creating that avatar. It takes 24 hours for them to create it for you. And then you play with it. Then I actually hopped on a Zoom call and had a Zoom call with my avatar. And I asked Gerhard 3.0, what are the benefits of sponsoring? And gave exactly my script, delivered it flawlessly. And I had a conversation with my own avatar about our conference. And the caveat is it's not as smooth as I wanted it to be, because I'm a perfectionist. I don't want the avatar to think too long, and I don't like that 3-second pause before the avatar answers my question. But I spoke to other people who have been using HeyGen, and they found a hack around where you can shorten the time and make that conversation more smoothly. But this is just the beginning stage. HeyGen is experimenting with that. So once that's fully developed, you are going to have an amazing sales assistant that is going to live on your website, that can answer the basic questions that your salespeople answer all the time better than a salesperson can.
And guys, as amazing and wonderful as that sounds, and there's other solutions out there too that are coming along, like OneMind's Mindy.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And OneMind is written with the letter, not with the letter, but with the number one, onemind.com.
Yes.
Check it out and have a conversation with Mindy.
Oh.
When you have a conversation with the avatars, you train the avatar to stick to the topic. So when I ask Mindy, did you vote for Donald Trump? And she says, well, I am not trained to go to answer questions about politics at this point.
Good girl. Well, listen, here's the thing. And tomorrow it's going to be, another new wrinkle. And that's not the point. AI is going to continue to develop. There's going to be incredible tools that we're going to have available. But again, that's another shiny object. And while it can be an important part of what we're doing, it needs to be matched with what we wanted to achieve and what our goals are in the first place. So that can take you way off track, and now you've lost track with what you wanted to do in the first place. So yes, that can be incredibly important, and it can become part of your sales process. And you want to ensure that so that AI becomes a seamless part of your day-to-day sales activities. The one thing that I've trained salespeople for years and years is whatever system they're using, get it on your mobile, right? Forget your desktop, because you don't work at your desktop. You're generally on your mobile. Get it on your mobile. And in this way, no matter what you're doing, whether it's a phone call or a text or an email or a presentation or a proposal, whatever it is, or social media, LinkedIn, it's all here. It's already connected to the system, and that data gets collected accordingly, and you don't have to go back later and do that. Right? It's going to make your life a lot easier. That's a simple thing, but that's part of what we're talking about. We need to integrate what we're doing and ensure that all of that data is, in fact, being collected in the first place. And if it's not being collected now, AI is not going to fix that. AI is going to make it worse. So we need to create a comprehensive plan that really brings that into place so that we've got the right standard operating procedures to work with these new tools and to create an organization that's efficient and salespeople that are productive and happy. And these are the kinds of things that AI can give you. It can give you coaching and training, accountability, results. It can create team competition, and it can gamify. It can help everybody stay in their sales targets in real time as they're doing their activities. It creates follow-ups and proposals immediately for them. It can create team evaluations and create sales reports instantly when you use it properly. Sales management reporting, market and account, AI insights. It's all there. These aren't things that aren't there. They're all there, but they're disconnected, and they're not integrated, and they're not comprehensive because we haven't gotten there yet. And that's what we need to do. Even using things like measuring people's different personality traits so that we can be impactful with our presentation, whether it be DISC or Clifton Strengths. AI can do that too. That's already there, and it's proven. So these are the kinds of things that we can bring to bear. Now, by way of coaching, the results with coaching using AI versus in person. And by the way, this isn't meant to replace in person. It's meant to continue the in person. So in-person training is a one-off, maybe once a week or once a month or whatever the case may be. AI is with them every day in real time in every call they make. Can you imagine having a coach on your shoulder when and how and where you're in calls, communicating with customers in whatever way you're doing that? And that creates continuous improvement, but more importantly, it creates habits and new behaviors. And that's where change happens. To tell a salesperson, did you ask for the sale? Or to ask them that. You're going to get the same answer every time, but I guarantee you, when you go in to see what they've actually done, and I can take 20 of their meetings, and with one button, it's going to give me all the data that tells me how many times in those 20 meetings they actually asked for the sale. And now I can help him or her actually improve. Does that make sense? So the comparison of sales metrics before and after AI implementation as it relates to customer retention.
Hey, Thomas?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Just an observation. There's a gentleman in Gerhard's backyard, Steve Richard. I'm not sure if you know him.
Yeah, Foresight.
Super smart guy, and they initiated a system in their company where they actually monitored what their salespeople were typing in and there was a camera pointed at their salespeople, and there was like a mutiny that happened there because they didn't do a good job of explaining what they were doing. Everybody's camera was pointed at the ceiling. So when they took the time to explain what they're doing is what we want to do is to coach you on specific issues so you actually improve your sales and you take more money home. Once they got that, it allowed the salespeople to basically go, this was a bad sales call I had, and this was a really good one. And it allowed their sales manager to take a look at it and coach them on the good stuff. They made it SOP for all the salespeople. On the bad stuff, they got specific coaching on that particular thing, and everybody's sales went up. So the reason I bring that story up is as we bring these systems in, that onboarding of new systems and explaining how this is going to help you, salesperson, be more effective, make more money is such a critical element of this. Because if that isn't done well, it's not going to be adopted or there'll be a mutiny.
Right on. I couldn't agree more. And by the way, we hear that every day, right? With respect to the pushback, because of the the term that we hear a lot is Big Brother, right? You just and once you start to show them how they can improve, and it becomes their tool as well. And I'm about to show you that. And that's what's really powerful because they can use it themselves. So it's not just about your manager or your team seeing what you're doing, because the only one who can see it is actually the manager. But you can go on there and actually use it to improve your own metrics and how you're doing, right? And I can tell you, since I've been doing it, I've been in sales a long time, and it's made a radical improvement in terms of making sure that, one of the biggest things that I always had a problem with is talking too much, right? And not listening enough. And this tells me, it's pretty simple. I talked 75% of the time. Well, that can't be good, right? That's a simple thing, but I can then continually work that backwards, right? And get it to the point where it's optimized. And now I am listening. And when I'm listening, two things are happening. The obvious, now I'm picking up on things that I didn't before. And now we're having a conversation rather than a speech. But in addition, with the tool that I'm about to show you and others like it, I can now take that data, go back and see even other things that I missed, right? Because we don't catch everything, and AI will catch a lot of it. And now I can go in and see, you know what? I really didn't do as good a job on asking them what they needed to do and by when as I thought I did. AI caught that. And if I've got a methodology or an insight built into it, it can coach me to do that even better in real time or as we go with game film. Does that make sense? So with that, without further ado, I'm going to sort of get into one of the solutions that can be considered for that. And again, the thing I want to really emphasize is that we've talked about quite a number of solutions, and there are many, many solutions out there. And some of them work great and some of them don't work as well for whatever reason, but it's not about the brand or the solution or the type of AI you're using. It's about why you're using it and whether or not it suits your environment, your team, and meets the objectives that hopefully you've set to begin with. And if that objective is, I want to increase my sales this year, that's not an objective. That doesn't cut the mustard. The objective is, how am I going to increase sales this year? What am I going to do differently this year as an organization, as a team, with our customer service, with our marketing, with our salespeople, all those elements to make sure that happens? That's the goal. That's the question. And when you answer those questions and you create those objectives, now we can create a real sales AI playbook and roadmap. And that's what this is designed to do. So we can use a tool like this, which collects business intelligence based upon every stream of communication that you might have in your organization, whether that's phone, whether that's video, whether that's GoToMeeting, Teams, Zoom, whatever it might be. We can bring all of that data in and actually create a database for individuals, for my teams, across sales, across leadership, across my HR department, across customer service. And I can now start to really measure how these folks are doing and give them, and they can get themselves instant feedback so that they can continually improve. And this continues to measure that, right? And I'll talk a little bit more about that. And I can go into the transcripts and I can timestamp. And if I want to send something as a clip to somebody specifically with a 15-second clip within a video back to a client or a customer or my manager, I can. So there's incredible power. I can create summaries of any kind that I want. In addition, I can query. And this is probably the most powerful aspect. So in addition to having sales insights, so if I've got a particular sales methodology that I want to use, maybe it's Sandler, maybe it's Miller Hyman, maybe it's Richardson, maybe it's any number of different methodologies, or maybe we've got our own. I can build it right into here. And then I can go in and I can query all the meetings individually or collectively in real time with one push or click of a button in order to get that data and create reporting of all kind. This becomes business intelligence that connects to your systems, whether it be your ERP or your CRM or any other system you're using, so that it can also begin to populate those areas for you so that you don't have to, and certainly so that you don't have to chase your sales team around and get them to do it, because 9 times out of 10, they're not. So this is an opportunity that starts to speak to the questions you were asking, John.
Yes, it's starting to. Got it. And one question, well, I'm sure you're going to get to it too. So this is insights about how you're doing and what it's hearing, but you had mentioned earlier on about kind of helping you write emails or best practices in emails and that type of thing. That would be more outbound rather than what it's observing real time, right? Yeah.
No, I'm glad you asked that. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember if I even have a slide in here with respect to that. But we have an email composer built in. And what it does, and I won't go into too much, but I will say this: it takes the DISC and or the Clifton strengths and any other that you want to implement by way of taking the behavior of the client, the customer, or even internal folks, and it applies that against the email that you want to write for them, or the proposal, or the quote, or whatever it might be, and it helps you write that in a way that's powerful based upon their type of personality traits. And that's built in. So all of those things are there. And they were in other forms in different AI products that you may even be using, but they may not have been connected. Here they are. And furthermore, I can tie that back into my CRM and gain even more insight from my CRM, which is why I bought the darn thing in the first place. Right? Now we can really make some of the tools that you've already bought start to do what they should have been doing in the first place. Not because they couldn't, but because we weren't using them to the degree of collecting the business intelligence that this kind of system can provide. Does that make sense?
Yep.
John, what CRM system are you using right now?
Well, we use HubSpot on our side of the business, but I work with customers who use everything from Dynamics to HubSpot to Salesforce to homegrown, still some legacies and others. Yeah. And some misname it a little bit too. Like Gong is not really CRM, but it's
sales enablement.
Sales enablement, yeah, and others.
Sure. And Gong does some of this, and does a great job with respect to that. And that's why they've grown to a multi-billion-dollar company as rapidly as they did. And why? Because they address some of the things that you spoke to, John. Right? The challenge is they're standalone and they don't necessarily integrate in the same way, but it's still that's a great step to be taking as well. Right? And so whether it's HubSpot or Salesforce or Sugar or there's hundreds of CRMs. the issue isn't whether it's a good CRM. The issue is, are you using it? And most people aren't. And then they blame the CRM, and so they go buy another one. It was never the CRM. It was always you. Right? And that's what we want to address. And AI is no different. AI is just another technology, albeit an evolutionary technology, but nonetheless, if we don't use it on purpose and with a purpose, the result is going to be the same. We're going to keep flipping through different AIs until we find the one we think we like the most. And that'll never happen because we didn't do it in the right way to begin with. And that's really what this is all about. So what we want to do is to help create that playbook and that roadmap for your organizations so that you can put all those things together. And whether it's this solution, which I think obviously is a great one, or others, or maybe ones you're even using already, and then integrate that for you. And in fact, I'm just going to jump slides over here a little bit. If I can. There we go. Oh, I love this line, by the way. There's no greater risk than the status quo. I love it because I wrote it, but it's I think it's still a good one. But what I did want to take you to is on March 13th, we're doing a hybrid half-day workshop wherein we're going to take leaders and leadership teams. And I don't know how to say this nicely, so I'll just say it. We're going to beat you up for a half a day. And we're going to make you take a real good inward look at what you're really doing and why. And we're going to help you actually come out with a real roadmap for 2025 and with real goals and with real technology solutions that are going to get it done for you. And that's what that's about. Now, it's a hybrid. We call it a hybrid because it's got virtual, but it's also got in person. So we're looking to get the leadership folks in person, and we're looking to have their teams potentially virtually with them if that works in that case. And we've done quite a number of hybrid events, and they work extremely well because not everybody can come in, but you still want to have your team having that interaction, especially with you when you're going through a workshop. And we break people up in groups as related to their organizations, and we put you through the hoops. And what you think you're going to come out with by way of what you think you're going to learn is going to be radically different. And we have a lot of fun with it. Because again, we spoke to quite a bit of it already, and that is people don't today generally even know what their real technology stack is. They know what they bought, but they haven't got a clue what everybody else is using. Right? John in sales is using this on their mobile. Mary's using something else, and they're doing all sorts of things. And what happens is a dog's breakfast when it comes to proposals and quotes and customer communication and results. And now you can't figure out why you can't improve your sales because everybody's running around in different directions. We need to help you pull that together and help you create a playbook that really makes sense. John, is that something that you think would be impactful for a lot of organizations?
This March 13th workshop?
Yeah, and just that general idea of pulling it all together in the way we're talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes, big question, big answer, but yes, I mean, you could fill you could fill many organizations' hybrid stack with a series of logos that would fit in the slide. It'd be that complicated. What are they using? What are they not doing? And are they connected? And I think the shiny new object, as you said earlier, is AI. Is that another thing, or do I take something away and add it, or does it consolidate some of these? What's being used? What's not being used? And then, what is the tool? And I think there's a lot of questions still about that. You're coming up with one, and then how do I get my team to use it? So yes, I do think it'd be useful.
Let me phrase it a little bit differently because I see the opportunity very clearly in co-creating a roadmap with experts like Thomas and with the group because there's a lot of intelligence in this group alone. But I think what we also need to be mindful of is that there is a darker side to technology with hallucinations and their limits. And my feeling is that AI technology without a sound strategy can lead to tragedy.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
So
can have a technology train wreck.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you didn't even speak to, at least necessarily, security and compliance. And so, and some of these things are still the wild, wild west. And so what we bring in our case is we really take that into account. And that's a huge part of it. And so we, in our case, we're SOC 2 and compliant in a number of industries. But nonetheless, you need to make sure that you have those compliances across all the different solutions that you might be trying to integrate, because otherwise you've got a number of swinging doors that are going to create that potential train wreck. So what I wanted to say in closing here was we have the opportunity. I wanted to offer everybody here today a 30-day free trial of our Pro version product. So that's not just our, we have a free product for 7 days. It's a very basic version, but we're offering today to everybody that's here and to everybody that's registered the Pro version of our product. And you can go to workplace.ai.com or -ai.com and go to the sign up and use Sales AI as your code. And that's going to give you access to the Pro version, which is the full enterprise version with all the insights and the AI queries. And I will work with anybody here and anybody who's registered in order to help you see the good, the bad, and the ugly, not as to the product, but as to how it does or doesn't relate to your needs. And that's really what this is all about. This is one product, and it does do some very great things, but that doesn't mean it's the best solution for you. So we're going to tell you that too. And that's where the March 13th event, the hybrid event, and that's going to be in Virginia, is going to be so powerful. Because for those that are able to attend either in person or virtually, you are going to come out of that event changed by way of what your thoughts were on how AI can really make a difference for your organization. And that's what we want to achieve. So the initial first hour is going to be rough because we're going to really dig into what you're really doing versus what you think you're doing. And then as we move through it, it becomes really fun and everybody has a great time. And we bring in a lot of the different tools, much like the one Gerhard was talking about, which with the AI-driven that's going to be part of this. And between now and March 13th, there's probably going to be 2 other brand new AI-based technologies that will also bring to bear. So they're all going to be part of that, but it's again, that's not the focus. The focus is you and your organization. And
Can we turn the tables and open it for questions now, since
Of course,
we
absolutely. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Garrett.
yeah, I'd like to hear your questions and thoughts about anything we discussed today, and particularly love to know how can we help you win? What are some of the challenges that you're facing? Or if you want to share one best practice, we are always here to listen and learn.
Just a quick question. What's the distinction between a prompt and an agent?
Oh,
Go ahead, Garrett.
Guys, I'm going to drop off. I have to just run, but
John.
wanted to get to this point. But Thomas, I'll be following up. Thank you. And
Thank you
Gerhard,
so much,
thank you very much.
thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
A prompt is something where you query ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT, let's say you're making a sales call on a company. So you type in, what are the 5 headwinds this company is facing right now? And what are the 5 tailwinds? And it will give you the information in less than 10 seconds. And ChatGPT helps you prepare intelligence, like a real assistant would do. However, when it comes to an agent is a knowledge reservoir, if you will. It's a genie in a bottle, and the bottle has a label on it that says, sales training, or it has a label that says sales pitch, or a label that says sales coaching. So you can train the agent with your own knowledge base. Let's say Jeffrey Gitomer has written 17 books. He has created an agent that answers all questions you have about sales, and the answers come from those 17 books.
Thank you.
Fabio, any questions?
I wonder if all these things fits companies that are less than 10 million turnover. That is the 95% of my customers. This is the big question, because I can tell you that at least here in the south of Europe, less than 10% is using a CRM.
Right.
And those 50% they're using bad. So I don't know how really we can implement these things in companies that even don't use a CRM.
Well, two things. The first of which is AI levels the playing field, because what it really does is it puts the power that it has in the hands of everybody at a very low cost, right? Whereas, an ERP or Salesforce or HubSpot or some of the larger CRMs can be crazy expensive. You don't need to do that, right? You can have AIs that actually do what you've just asked for smaller companies. And we have many clients that fit that mold for obvious reasons, because it's the biggest part of the market, and they get as much or more impact, but probably more immediately. And they don't have the challenges that the larger organization has by way of data and business intelligence, because it's right there, usually in spreadsheets, right? And in areas like that. And that as well can be integrated and written in with respect to AI tools if it's done purposely. So the answer is yes, it can be extremely important for small business. In fact, I'll say this, those small businesses that don't do that are going to be much smaller soon.
Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that, as Thomas say, is not really a question of budget. The question is mentality, that
The mindset, yeah.
the
I
mindset.
agree.
Well said. Yeah.
Gary, any questions?
No questions. Just looked forward to the opportunity today to gain some situational awareness of the opportunities and what others are doing. Always value these opportunities. So thank you again.
You're welcome. What's your takeaway from today?
I have some homework to do. I want to, sign in and, look at the platform to see how it, may benefit myself and, our team. But, always inspired by, the dialogue of others and, the things that you each are looking at. And I'm inspired. So thank you.
Just one quick story. I've used SOAR now for about 4 months, and it's so effective. I can record any conversation, but after the conversation, I take the transcript from SOAR and I put it in ChatGPT, and then I give it a prompt and say, based on that conversation that we had, can you write a 600-word blog post? And then I also give it another few prompts, like use short sentences, create 3 bullet points, and write it in a style like David Brooks, the New York Times columnist, who uses very compelling language. And 7 seconds later, I have a blog post and I look at it and I say, I couldn't have done it better myself. And I may edit or tweak or add something, and boom, it's published. And I have done that with selling power articles, cover stories, or you know, I cannot do my business without SOA at this point.
Very nice. That's great.
So just a side question, Gerhard. A lot of times when you get ChatGPT to write something, it gets ID'd as AI, and Google punishes the site and the article. Any workarounds you're using to?
That's why I say write it in the style of David Brooks, the New York Times columnist. Where you can also put in a style prompt where you say, make this humorous and write it as if Jerry Seinfeld had created that, or Jane Leno, or Adam Sandler, or whatever. So you use those prompts and it automatically becomes funny.
Can I
Without,
write it in the avatar of Gerhard Schwagner?
so that's
What do you
copyright.
get, David Brooks?
Yeah, write it
Very
with
good analysis.
with Gerhard's Austrian accent. Yeah, and it does it. You will sell more.
Jawohl, Kommandant.
I want to pump you up.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for your time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks,
That was
Thomas and
fun.
everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.